So we're really excited about the BEAD allocation. We had been planning for a little bit less than that, so we're excited. It worked out, and all of our mapping challenges were worth the while. So in terms of the next steps with relation to BEAD, we got our official award letter from NTIA on December 1st. And so that started a 270-day clock for something called the 5-year action plan. So we're currently drafting that, and we've got to submit that to NTIA. It's kind of like a homework assignment to demonstrate that we know, awards that have come to the state, and we have a general plan for how we think we're going to get the 100% goal for NTIA solved. But the more, I think, the documents that are going to be more scrutinized by NTA are related to what's called the initial proposal. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about that now. The initial proposal for every state, because we received our BEAD allocation letter on June 30th, every state has 180 days to submit. So the date would be December 27th. And of course, we don't want to be, submitting it on the day after Christmas along with 25 other states, because then we get in the bottleneck. So our plan is to really get our initial proposal documents out there faster. So there's actually kind of 19 pieces to the initial proposal. And so NTA has split them into what they call Volume 1 and Volume 2. And what we have to do is we have to get Volume 1 out for public comment. So we have to write it, which we're in the process of doing, put it out for public comment for 30 days, and then we can submit that to NTIA. And we need them to approve that document. And then meanwhile, we can finish what's called Volume 2, which is some, quite a few other things. And when we submit Volume 2 and we have Volume 1 approved by NTIA, we can actually conduct the challenge process. The challenge process, in this case, there's, it seems like every broadband program has a challenge process, but what we mean by that is we have to determine what locations we view as unserved or underserved so we can fund them. And so our general philosophy on that is to try to err on the side of, if we don't think it's unserved, we'll say it's not unserved or underserved. And yeah, Sarah's right. We've got to also put Volume 2 out for public comment before we submit it to NTIA. But in general, on the challenge process, we want to look at locations and try to get as many places eligible as possible, and then have providers in the challenge process, prove to us they've got service at locations. And so there's actually, the public comment period is open to anyone, but it's really important that the challenge process is only open to certain groups, including local, regional, or tribal governments, to ISPs, to nonprofit organizations. So the general public can't challenge in the challenge process, but they can comment on how we're going to conduct the challenge process when we put Volume 1 out. So I know it's a lot of detail here, but I think to recap, Volume 1, you should expect that to come out in the next month or two for 30-day public comment period. Then we will submit to NTIA. Volume 2 we'll be working on. We'll also put that out for public comment. Once we've got Volume 1 approved, once we've got Volume 2 submitted, we can then conduct the challenge process. And we probably anticipate doing that maybe at the end of this year or the start of next year. Once we've done the challenge process and we've figured out all the locations that are eligible to get funding through BEAD, we then can move on and actually run our grant program. And so we will conduct the grant program, we will decide awards, and then we submit that list, what's called our final proposal, to NTIA. And then they have to rubber stamp and say, yes, you've proven to us that you've got service to every unserved location. If we prove that, we can then move on to underserved, and then we can do anchor institutions and non-deployment, yada, yada, yada. So there's a kind of a process to that. But we basically run our grant program, tell NTIA, here's what we'd like to award, and they have to say, you're good to go. And then we can start actually allocating funding out of the office. So happy to answer any questions on that. We do still think we can get the BEAD program to open probably in the first half of next year.
Sarah, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that a key piece of the challenge process is that there'll be locations identified as broadband serviceable locations, and those locations are coming from, as the basis, the FCC map. And the state is not allowed to remove or add any broadband serviceable locations. So if you're looking to challenge whether or not your location or your stakeholders' location is considered a broadband serviceable location, that challenge process has to happen at the FCC. And you can work with Megan to help work through that process.
Thank you, Sarah, for adding that. We appreciate it. Okay. Mark, you good?
Yeah, and I was going to say, just on what Sarah mentioned in terms of challenging, one of the calls we occasionally get in our office is about, it's on the map, it's shown as served, but the home is sitting back, let's say 200 feet from the on the property line, and when they call to get service, the installation fees $20,000 from the ISP. Those are the types of things you can challenge at the FCC, and we have some instructions on how to do that. So that way, they're going to be constantly taking in. We won't get more money through BEAD because they've already decided the allocation, but we can get dots added to the map via the FCC process that then make it eligible for us to fund it. So if you have, residents reaching out, if you're in the community, we can certainly, get you in touch with some of the instructions and make sure that folks know they can, get it adjudicated over at the FCC. And Megan, our GIS mapping expert, put her info in the chat there. So
Great. Thanks, guys. And again, we'll follow up after the call with all of these notes and slide decks and information. So, all right. I'm gonna at this time have Delia provide an update on the CBO Roadshow.
Thank you so much, Lauren. And I want to start by saying thank you to everyone that has been hosting us during this summer. I have heard great things about our community members. It seems these meetings, our roadshow is going pretty well. And I just want to remind everyone that we still have more meetings coming up this month and also in August. So our next meeting will be July 20th in Glenwood Springs, and July 21st, Colorado Springs, the 26th in Loveland, and also in Pagosa Springs. And in August, we have Buena Vista and also Limon. Thank you once again for all of your help and support. And if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Thanks, Delia. At this time, I'm going to have Michael Murphy talk about the workforce program that he's working on.
So as part of the 5-year plan and initial plan that Mark had spoke about, one of the sections of that is a workforce plan. And of course, we had open sessions last week to review the draft and open it up for public comment. And just as a reminder, or not public comment, I'm sorry, stakeholder comment. We're looking for those comments to be completed by August 11th. And, just as a reminder, the goals for the workforce plan, broadband awareness campaign, reaching 10,000 Coloradans by the end of 2024, 3,000 workers entered into a broadband training program by the end of 2025. And then the final goal is 1,500 new workers employed in the broadband field by the end of 2026. And to do that, we're going to apply 4 strategies. We're going to have an awareness program. We're going to evaluate and scale training and job placement programs. We're also looking at pilot programs and apprenticeships, and then embed this into the telecommunications into the workforce plan for Colorado in general, where it's not a standalone just for BEAD and then it goes away after BEAD. We want this to continue on going forward. And with this will also be available for public comment with the initial plans as they come out for public comment. If you have any questions or have any issues accessing the comments form that I put the link here, please let me know, and I look forward to all your input.
Great, thanks, Mike. Okay, at this time, I'm going to have Brandy talk about the grant program, the Advanced CPF grant program. Brandy, go ahead.
Great, thanks, Lauren. I know it's kind of a tongue twister. So yeah, just want to say before I start, I appreciate everybody joining this call as we move through all of our programs. Really excited, a lot of really great news. And so with that being said, I'm sure this will be music to some people's ears. We extended the CPF grant application deadline to September 22nd to give everybody an extra 30 days. And I just want to acknowledge on the call that, we had a couple of different versions of our maps published, and we received feedback from stakeholders asking us to extend the deadline because of those delays with kind of that final map. So I just want to apologize for that. The final map is published, and we just wanted to make sure that you all had plenty of time with the data and have plenty of time. You're welcome, Jason, to develop your applications. These federal programs, we acknowledge, are pretty robust and they take a lot of time. So we just want to make sure that you guys can put your best application forward. And I know data is important, and not feeling rushed because some of the data changed. So anyway, so the next steps for the timeline, obviously we have our map up. The application is due the 22nd. I will tell you, we're not anticipating extending that deadline. So it's going to be really, really important for you guys to meet that deadline. If we can't really extend it because of some of the tight timelines we're under with CPF and BEAD. And then we don't imagine that we're going to have any slippage in our schedule. So we anticipate making those awards still in November. If you look at the grant guidelines, we're going to try to hold that schedule because we want to make sure everybody gets under contract for funds by the end of 2023. And the main reason for that, well, there's two main reasons, is this highly anticipated program you guys have been waiting for a while for. And so we just want to get the money out the door as quickly as possible so that we don't miss a construction season. I know in a lot of areas of the state, there's two seasons. There's summer, and then there's winter, and then there's construction season. So we don't want to delay any of those projects because of that. And then secondly, we're trying to avoid running two grant programs at the same time as CPF and BEAD. As you guys can imagine, BEAD will be quite a lift for our staff. And we want to make sure we're 100% dedicated to setting that program up for success. So we don't anticipate any slippage in that schedule. So just wanted to let you know that. And, as always, make sure you follow our Advanced Colorado Broadband website for updates on anything new and emerging with our programs. So anyway, I'll pause there. Lauren, thanks so much.
Great. Thanks so much, Brandy. Okay. Those are all of our updates. So at this time, we'll open it up to all of you to ask any questions about what we covered or just anything that's on your mind regarding broadband in Colorado or grant programs. So go ahead. You can put your question in the chat too, by the way, or you can raise your hand and just ask your question on the call, whatever you prefer. Any questions? Okay, if there aren't questions, we'll give it a couple more minutes, but that email on the screen is the email dedicated to the grant program. So you can send any questions or comments to that email. We do incorporate every question or information that people request that we receive at that email into the FAQ for the grant program, which is on the CPF website. So we do track everything and respond to it in those FAQs. We update them. It seems to be about every 2 weeks. So just check back for the most update version, but every single question we receive is in that FAQ. There's also a programs team that you can reach out to directly that is completely dedicated to the grant program. Ollie and Mike are both dedicated to different regions across the state. So you can reach out to anyone there on the team. And then there's a million other ways to stay up to date with us. Again, the email, there's our CBO newsletter. We're on Twitter. And then, like I said, CBO in the news is kind of a newer feature where we just post all of the news coverage that we receive. There's the next roundtable call is September 20th. So right before the grant program deadline is upon us. So feel free to join us then at that time, but don't feel like you have to wait. You can reach out to the team at any time. So if there are not any other questions, we'll give everybody a half hour of their time back.
I have one question, Lauren. It sounded like there was a priority list for who may get the funding first. Can you guys expand on that list again? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I might give that to Brandy or Mark. One of you want to talk to that?
For the BEAD program?
Yes.
Yeah, so we have to demonstrate to NTIA that we have a plan to serve all of the unserved first, then our underserved, and then if we have money left over, we can do anchor institutions or non-deployment funds. So for instance, like a workforce training program. And so we will conduct our grant program and submit a plan to NTIA. And once they approve it, it doesn't mean we have to build it in that order necessarily. But we need to have a plan to them that they approve that shows that we, have service at all the unserved locations first, then underserved, then anchor institutions and other non-deployment funds. Sarah, correct me if I'm wrong.
You're not wrong.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. I want to rush people. We certainly have more time. So if there's other questions, we can hold on for just a second as well. Okay. Looks like that's it. So we appreciate everybody joining us today. Like I said, reach out if you have any other questions, but thank you so much for your time, everyone. Have a great day.